1, 2, 3, 4, and so let's break down that last measure of the second line. So your left hand starts with your first finger on the first fret of the big E string, and then your third finger goes on the third fret of the D, and your second finger goes on the second fret of the G, and your pinky finger goes on the third fret of the E. So, like that. Then what you do is you pluck with your right hand the big E string, and then you're going to pluck the D, G, and high E with your 1, 2, and 4 fingers, like this. And then you take, with your right hand, you take your pinky off, and then you're just going to pluck the G and E strings with your index and ring finger. Then you put the pinky back down, and you pluck the G and E again. Then with your left hand, you're going to move your ring finger to the third fret of the A string, and then you're going to pluck the A string with your thumb and the E, high E with your ring finger, and then you pluck with your thumb on the A again, and then you're going to put your pinky down on the third fret of the B string, and you're going to pluck the G and B with your index and middle finger, and then you go back to the A string with your thumb. And you'll notice that I didn't move my fingers off of certain notes while I was playing that. So here's that last measure one more time in slow motion. Even slower. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Alright, so let's break this down. Measure 7 is where we're starting now. That's the third line. So you take your ring finger and you put it on the third fret of the big E string, and then your thumb on your right hand is going to pluck that and the open D and G strings with your index and middle finger. And then you're going to hit a bass note again with your thumb, which is the E string. And then with your left hand, you're going to add that pinky finger to the B string on the third fret, and then you're going to take your thumb, index, and middle finger and pluck those, the D, G, and B strings. And then you take your thumb back to the big E string that still has the 3 on it, and then you're going to switch to an A minor chord with your left hand, where your first finger is on the B string, 1st fret, your second finger is on the D string, 2nd fret, and your third finger is on the G string, 2nd fret. So then with your right hand, you have your thumb and middle finger hitting the A and B strings together, and then your thumb hits the D, and then your index hits a G, and then your thumb comes back to the D. Now on to measure 8, where you're switching to that pseudo F chord, which we've already played in measure 6. So that was the end of line 2, and you have thumb hits the big E string, where your first finger is on the 1st fret, and then you have your left hand is 3rd finger on the D string, 3rd fret, 2nd finger on the G string, 2nd fret, 4th finger on the E string, 3rd fret. So you have all 3 of those together. So you have the bass, and then D with your thumb, G with your index, and E with your ring finger. And then take the pinky off on the fretting hand, the left hand over here, and then you have index and ring finger together. And then you put that pinky finger back down, and you have the index and ring hitting the G and E strings. You move your 3rd finger on the left hand to the 3rd fret of the A string, and you pluck that and the open E string together. And then you're going to hit that A string again. And then you're going to put your pinky on the 3rd fret of the B string, and you're going to take your index and middle finger and hit the G and B strings together. And then your thumb comes back to the A string. Then you're going to move to measure 9, where you move your 3rd finger to the 3rd fret of the big E string, and you're going to pluck the E, D, G, and B with thumb 1, 2, 3, or thumb, index, middle, ring. And then your ring finger is going to hit the 3rd fret of the B string 2 more times. And then you move your index finger over to the 1st fret of the B string, and you're going to play that with your ring finger 1 more time. And then you're going to slide, and I'm using my ring finger to slide up to the 5th fret from the 3rd fret while playing the A string at the same time. So that's like this. And then you slide it back to 3. So that sounds like that. And then you have an open A string again while you're doing a pull off from the 1st fret on the B string to an open B string. So that's A and B strings together with that pull off from 1 to 0. Then you're on to the next line, where you're back to your old friend with this thing happening. Which was the same thing we did in measure 8. And then you're moving to measure 11, which is the same thing that you did in measure 7, and that looks like this. So you have kind of a G there, and then the A minor, you're moving on to measure 12, where something new is happening. So you have an F chord that you're strumming all the way through. And then you have an open E string by itself. And then the 3rd fret on the B string with your ring finger, plucking it with your middle finger. And then your 1st finger goes to the 1st fret of the B string, plucking that with your middle finger. And then your 3rd finger goes to the 3rd fret of the A string, and you're going to pluck the A with your thumb and a G with your index finger. And then you're going to put your 3rd finger down on the B string, but you're going to hit the E string, open the 3rd fret of the B, and then an open G. So that little part is measure 12 all together. Then we're going to go to page 2. So we're wrapping up the intro here with 2 more measures. On measure 13, you have your 3rd finger on the 3rd fret of the E string and your pinky finger, that's over there, your pinky finger on the 3rd fret of the B string, and you're going to pluck the E, D, G, B, all with the thumb, index, middle ring together. And then the B string again 2 more times. And then you're switching your index finger to the B string, but you're going to leave this thing ringing out. So it's going to sound like. And then you're going to move your pinky finger back down to the 3rd fret of that B string again, but you're plucking an open A string. At the same time, you're sliding it to the 5th fret. If that's too hard, you can move your ring finger over there and do the same thing. And then you have your 2 finger goes to the 2nd fret of the G string. And then your 1st finger goes to the 1st fret of the A. And you're going to pluck that with your middle finger. So measure 13 sounds like. And you're holding that. And then at the end of measure 14, the next measure, you have an up, down, up on some muted strings. So then that puts us into the first measure of verse 1. 1st finger, 1st fret, E string, ring finger on the 3rd fret of the D string, and the middle finger on the 2nd fret of the G string. So then you have thumb hits the E, index hits the D, middle hits the G, and then you come back to the D. And then you're going to move your 3rd finger over to the 3rd fret of the A string, and you're going to pluck an open G string at the same time. So I'm using my thumb and middle to pluck those, and then you hit that A string again, and then you're going to put your middle finger down over here on the 2nd fret of the D string. So you have those 2 there, so you have a 2nd fret on the D back to the 3rd fret on an A. So this little jam is like.